Chapter number 21 of The Murder of Roger Ackroyd is titled The Paragraph in the Paper. Okay, as we have already seen in the previous chapter that the detective Poirot has said that he has given information about Ralph being caught while he was trying to escape, but actually this is a false story, and this story is actually to get more information out from the people who are hiding it, right? Or the anyone who is trying to use Ralph's name in order to hide them, okay, or their intentions. So what I am trying to say here is that this chapter is important. Every chapter is important for solving the case, but this chapter is important because if you know the murderer, right, if you have read the story, if you know the murderer, then what you will see here is that only one person except the detective who is planning this false thing knows the story, right, knows that this is a false thing. So this is actually a tricky situation in order to find out, because it is a trap. It is a trap in order to find out who the main culprit is, or what are the things that has happened when Poirot was not here, or anything that has been hidden from him. Okay, so from the previous chapter itself, what we see here is that Caroline says that, or Caroline has of course seen Miss Russell come out of the surgery door. Okay, and Dr. Sheffers that he had anticipated this and had recently an elaborate account of the lady's bad knee. Okay, but Caroline was not in cross-questioned mood. Her point of view was that she knew what Miss Russell had really come for, and that I didn't. So what we see here is that this instance, this story is divided into so many small incidents that it actually makes for the readers to remember each incident. Okay, so I will remind you about the incident that has happened, where we have seen that Charles Kent is found out to be the illegitimate son of Miss Russell, and Miss Russell used to give him money, or rather he would ask money from Miss Russell, and on that day, on Friday, the day when Roger was murdered, a similar thing happened where Miss Russell went to the summer house in order to meet her son, where the quill was found and the handkerchief was found. Okay, so what you see here is that this story is actually revolving around the several incidents of several people who are associated with Roger Ackroyd. Okay, so Dr. Shepherd leaves his office and returns to Caroline, and to this Caroline insists that Miss Russell must know more about Roger Ackroyd's death. Okay, and then just letting go of her would not do any harm, or letting go of her should not be done. Okay, so Caroline has always been an ardent investigator, or has an ardent zeal to know about everything. Okay, maybe you can say a gossip monger, but what we find here is that she has her own theories, her own way of looking into things. Okay, so what we find here is that she says that, or she believes that Miss Russell have more information which are linked with this person, linked with Roger's murder. So he should not have let Miss Russell go away. Clear? So following morning, the newspaper publishes the report. Okay, so not actually a report because reporting is done on original incidents, but it is actually a fabricated incident, right? So it publishes the fictional story about Ralph Patton being arrested while he was trying to leave, while he was trying to board the board the ship. So what we see here is that Caroline tells Shepherd she suspected as much, and that it is Shepherd's duty to make sure Ralph isn't convicted. Okay, so what we find here is that Caroline still believes that Ralph is innocent. Okay, so this story is actually revolving around Ralph, who is still not present physically in the scene. Clear? So what we find here is that she tells Shepherd that she saw a mysterious man enter Poirot's home earlier that morning. Okay, so Caroline is a huge source of information, not only to this person, that is the detective, but also she passes on the information to her brother also. Okay, so what we find here is that Caroline is giving the information to her brother, Dr. Shepherd, in order to move the story forward. Okay, so this man, who can this man? Caroline guesses that it was a home office expert. Okay, Poirot then visits Dr. Shepherd, and Caroline tries to raise the subject of his guest. Okay, so in order to get the information and everything, who that person was and everything. Clear? So Dr. Shepherd and Caroline try to raise the subject in order to get the information about the person who was, and Poirot, who has been in this case, who has been in this private investigation business for a long time, he knows what people want, okay, what people's intentions are. So he clearly understands that what they are up to. Clear? So Poirot, who can tell that she is actually trying to get the information, actually deflects from the topic. Okay, he moves away from the topic in order to find out what might be the case. Okay, because he wants to keep some things hidden until the very point of revelation comes. Clear? As you have seen in the case of the Parker story, or the test which was done on Parker, right? Similarly, several others, like the question of Charles Kent's birth, whether he was born in a place called Kent, right? So what we find here is that this little bit of information and these things which could have been asked, or which are asked in the story, but what the detective does, detective avoids it until the time comes. Okay, and the time is according to him. So what I find here is that he is doing everything logical, which apparently appear to us that there is no logic, or it is just out of a curiosity or anything, right, which might not be related to the case. But what we will see, or what we see here, is that everything that Poirot does is actually related to the case. Clear? Everything that he does is actually related to the case. So when Caroline tries to get the information out who that person was, Poirot deviates from the topic. Clear? So this person is actually intelligent enough to dodge everything, and he invites Dr. Shepherd for a walk. Okay, so on the walk he says Dr. Shepherd to come to his house that evening and to invite Major Blunt, Flora, Raymond and Mrs. Ackroyd. Clear? So what we see here is that the information is known, the information is clearly present, the information of Ralph being caught is already circulated. So naturally inquisitiveness, okay, or rather questioning will be raised within the minds of the people, right? So especially those who are already linked with the murder or are the family members or members of that house, right? So what we find here is that he is now calling them, and this calling is setting up the stage for the next chapter, right? So this passage that has been put up, or this passage which has come out in the newspaper, represents one of the only times in the entire novel when Caroline is wrong. Okay, so first because she thought Ralph was arrested, and second because she thinks the mysterious stranger is a home expert. Okay, so what we find here is that this is the difference, that is why this mistake is being done or placed in the story or the theory of or the interpretation of Caroline. It is intentionally done by the author in order to put Caroline a step lower in characteristics or in ability than the detective. Okay, if Caroline would guess exactly the same as the detective, then what is the importance of the detective, right? We could easily say that Caroline is as compatible as can be compared to the detective, right? She is as efficient as the detective, right? So but what we see here is that in this passage or in this situation, Agatha Christie is actually highlighting the experience, highlighting the ability, or highlighting the the efficiency of this person, that is the detective Poirot, Hercule Poirot, which is above, which is greater than any other person. Okay, other people might guess something which might be as close to him, okay, as close to the detective's theory, but what we will see here is that this theory, Caroline's theory, is the most appropriate one. But what we see here is that this theory of Caroline, or this understanding of Caroline, which was till this point very perfect and very right, in the sense that she was guessing everything clearly. Here, for the first time, she makes two mistakes in guessing. Okay, so the first one, as I said, is she is believing, and like everyone else, that Ralph is arrested, and she is asking Dr. Shepherd to help him so that he is not convicted. And secondly, the mysterious stranger who entered Poirot's house, she is thinking that this is a home office expert. Okay, so home office expert are those people who are involved in serious investigations. Okay, so what we see here is that neither of these the two persons who we have seen in the very first chapter, Dr. Shepherd and his sister Caroline, none of them can understand what Poirot is up to. Okay, what Poirot is planning. What Poirot is planning is not understandable, right? So Poirot is up to something, is obviously up to solving the case, but they do not understand but by what means he is actually doing that. Clear? So what we see here is that it is likely that Dr. Shepherd is just as curious about the mysterious stranger's identity as Caroline is. But what we see here is that Dr. Shepherd does not ask Poirot about it. Okay, he is masking his curiosity, he is hiding his curiosity in order to maybe hide something. Okay, so or maybe it is in his character that he does not reveal everything. Clear? So what we find here is that this story or this stranger's appearance is about this appearance, the appearing of the stranger builds up a curiosity not only among the readers but also among the character who have seen it or knows it, right? So but what we see here is that Poirot is not willing to describe or give any information about who that person is, and he deviates from the topic, and he announces that or he asks that Shepherd should call everyone, right? Call not everyone, he mentions the people, and it seems as if Poirot is apparently almost apparently ready to announce the killer's identity, right? Who the murderer is, he is actually ready to do that and is asking others to come around. So Dr. Shepherd goes off to the Ackroyd house to invite everyone. When he goes inside, he finds Mrs. Ackroyd tells her that Flora has just gotten engaged to Major Blunt. Clear? So he has gotten engaged to Major Blunt. So this is a twist. She notes how Flora confessed having stolen the money from Roger Ackroyd on the night of the murder. She also mentions that at one point she believed that Flora had some kind of understanding with Geoffrey Raymond. What we see here is that Shepherd is bemused, okay, with all the information, and invites Mrs. Ackroyd to Poirot's home. Clear? So this twist, this change is actually seen, or is actually maybe coincidental, or maybe a planning, or maybe due to the revelation in the previous chapter of titled Flora Ackroyd, where we find out that Major Blunt had serious attraction for this Flora Ackroyd, right? So what I see here is that Flora's evidently returns Major Blunt's feelings for her, okay, which suggests that she agreed to marry Ralph primarily due to the uncle's, that is Roger's, pressure, or maybe due to make him happy, or maybe because of the money, right? If you see here, you can see that the will of Roger has already mentioned that this person, Flora, will inherit some of the money, right? So Ralph's marriage, or the marriage with Ralph, was actually an escape route for Flora. Okay, it was not because she loved Ralph, which appeared to us as she ran to the detective in order to save him. But what we see here is that it might be because she was pressurized by uncle, that is Roger, or maybe she was wanting an escape, or maybe she wants to make her uncle happy, or maybe she was in want of money. So in this, Caroline was correct once again, because what we see here is that this affiliation between what can you say, these two now you can say Ralph, not Ralph, but this Major Blunt and this Miss Ackroyd, that is Flora Ackroyd, is actually happening. Okay, so what we find here is that this story is now changing its due course, or taking its due course. Maybe it is due to the newspaper cutout, or maybe because of the revelation that has happened. Clear? Maybe because of the revelation that has happened, that Ralph is arrested. Clear? So there are several possibilities which needs to be explored, or their minds needs to be explored in order to get hold of that. Clear? So what we find here is that in the next section, this story of this chapter rather, Dr. Shepherd rejoins Poirot and walks home, where they find Caroline, who tells them that Ursula Bond has come to the house, okay, demanding to see Poirot. Okay, demanding to see Poirot. You remember Ursula Bond, right? So inside, Poirot greets Ursula, but addresses her as Ursula Pattern. Clear? You understand that? So this chapter ends on another cliffhanger. So somehow Poirot has deduced that Ursula is already married to Ralph Pattern. Clear? So what we find here is that this detective is all-knowing, as I have described in the previous chapters, or while describing, if you remember the first lesson that I have talked about, that the quickness of the character of the detective, okay, is designed to gloss over the issue of an impossible man, or the detective who knows or sees all. Okay, he knows everything or sees everything. Clear? So he comes to know everything, he gets to know everything. That is what is seen, or that is what is shown over here. So when Ursula Bond enters, or Ursula Bond enters this place in order to visit, in order to see Poirot, what we see here is that this person, the detective, already knows that Ralph was married to Ursula. Who is Ursula? The parlour maid at Fernley Park. Okay, the parlour maid at Fernley Park. What we find here is that Ralph was secretly married to this Ursula Bond. So here are the two marriage information that we are getting, and the apparent couple, or the engaged couple, Ralph and Flora, are moving to different people, or they had moved to different people already, in the case of Ralph and Ursula. But what we find here is that this revelation is coming to us in this chapter. So this chapter is important from the point of view that, or the case, the paragraph in the newspaper is actually helping to reveal about the ring, who that might be, of who's the ring, who might have given to whom. So what we find here is that this story is delving into facts, like of facts I keep nothing to myself, but to everyone his own interpretation of them. So Poirot is saying that my friend Hastings, he of whom I told you, used to say of me that I was a human oyster, but he was unjust. Of facts I keep nothing to myself, but to everyone his own interpretation of them. So what we see here is that, as we have accused Poirot, or we have said about Poirot, that he tries to keep something to himself. Okay, he does not explain everything, right? And what he says here, that his friend come assistant he used to say that he was unjust. He used to keep everything to himself. But what's Poirot's point of view is that Poirot says that he does not keep anything to himself. Okay, what he actually does is that he reveals everything, he places everything, and it is open to everyone's interpretation. Okay, so he says this to Dr. Shepherd and Caroline. So what we fear is that this person is actually knowing everything, but he is actually playing with all other possibilities or all the other mysteries that are related with this story, or related with this murder. So he is delving into other instances, other informations which are related to this case, which are not known to anyone, even to Caroline. Okay, the things that are not even known to Caroline is being talked about in this story. Clear? Understood? So let's end it here. The last section is that Poirot passed me an outstretched hands when he said, Ursula born, I murmured, but Poirot went past with outstretched hand. No, he said, that is not quite right. I think it is not Ursula born. Is it, my child? But Ursula Pattern, Mrs. Ralph Pattern. So in this way this chapter ends, and we will be followed. This chapter is followed by Ursula's story. Okay, Ursula's story will follow, and the thing or the secret that she is hiding will be revealed in the next chapter. Clear? That will be revealed in the next chapter. What is important here is that Shepherd is, or not Shepherd rather, for Shepherd is not aware of everything, in spite of he being acting as a detective, or he was acting as a detective, right? But for Poirot, what we find, Poirot is well aware of everything. Poirot is, or comes to know about everything, and is hinting at, or is what can you say here is that exerting everything at the right moment, at the very, very right moment. Clear? So what we find here is that this is again an instance where he is ahead of everyone in getting the information, in knowing everything or guessing everything, right? As in the case of Ralph Pattern being married to Ursula Bourne. We will know about it in the next class. Okay, thank you.